recently AT&T, I think Verizon, a couple other companies, their comms went down. So I want to talk a little bit about SHTF comms. And I think that's predicated on a very basic understanding of how all of that stuff works. So stick with me. SHTF comms. Recently, AT&T went down back east. Maybe it went down back out here too. I don't know, because I've got T-Mobile. And if I recall correctly, Verizon went down as well. Now, they're claiming it was a software update. I also saw reports of Cisco getting hacked as well. And when you start putting two and two together, that makes me go, So this is my complete speculation based on I don't know anything, but I'm going to give it anyway. When you understand how cell phone towers work, it starts to make you kind of question the narrative. You see, the older technology creates the backbone for cell phone systems. So what that means is companies like AT&T that were the first and the oldest have the most rural coverage because they have the most cell phone towers in the most places. They also have the backbone of their system is a landline phone. So in a quick nutshell, you talk on your phone to a cell phone tower. That cell phone tower uses the old landline system and some computer routing devices to get your communication to another cell phone tower that puts out the signal to the person that you're calling. So basically you turn your cell phone on and it says, I'm here. That cell phone tower then records you in a little list, in a little database. And when someone else tries to call you, another server says, where's this cell phone on this list in this database? And then they link each other together. Why is this important? Well, it lets you know that the backbone or the landline cell phone system is less complicated and therefore more reliable. With that information, you can do something like install a landline phone in your house. Then it's only as good as the other guy who put a landline phone in his house as well. And all that does is it deletes the cell phone towers out of the system. You can also use internet voice over IP type phones as a backup as well, because that's more of a mesh type network and less of a cell phone system. So with that basic understanding, what we want to do is we want to look at older technologies, because older technologies are more reliable because they're less complicated systems. And less complicated systems, when a piece fails, they have more reliability. Believe it or not, the old flip phone is less susceptible to hacking because there's less software on it that you can manipulate and hack it with. When it comes to SHTF communications, you want to use older technology because it's more reliable, and you have to do it in a way. In order to do that, you have to understand the older technology and you have to have a pace plan. The problem is the human element. You see, someone has to be available on the other end of the line. You have to have someone pick up the phone or someone using the same type of technology you're using to talk to them. And sometimes you're beholden to what the other people use. As an example, there is an emergency room up north of us that uses a ham radio. It's just on and it's running and it's sitting there and it doesn't get used very much, but it's available if the landline systems go down. So this is important. In the military, we do this thing called a PACE plan. We use a primary, alternative, contingent, and emergency communications. When I was in Afghanistan, our primary system might be like the system inside the vehicle, the headset, or it might be a little radio that we would use to talk between the squad. And an alternative system might be another frequency that we can use to, in case that first frequency is being used or being listened to or whatever it is. And a contingent might be, okay, this system is not working. We're going to use Roshan cell phones or something. We're going to use some other communication type. And then an emergency might be like a sat phone. If all of these systems fail and all this stuff just goes to crap, I'm going to pull the sat phone out because it negates the problems of a cell phone system or people listening to us or whatever it is, and it goes straight to a satellite. When it comes to programming SHTF comms for you, have a PACE plan. Have your primary. I think everyone's primary should be a cell phone system. Everybody already uses that. There's the most effort and the most people using it. Pretty much anyone in the US, if I get your phone number, I can call you on the cell phone at any time. And that should be the primary. The alternative should be some kind of an alternative communication systems, like Signal is a great alternative communication system. The reason why I like that is I have taken my cell phone to countries where there isn't cell phone coverage, but there is internet coverage. And with that, I can use an app like Signal, or I can use a communication device like WhatsApp or even Facebook Messenger or whatever. And that's a good alternative system. Now, a contingent system should be something like, the cell phones have failed, there is no internet, I have to use a contingent system. You won't be able to use a system like the landline in most cases if the entire cell phone system fails. It doesn't hurt to have one if you have the availability to do so. A contingent system would be something like, I have a satellite capable GPS device right there. My Garmin Tread device can send a text message. And if you think about it, most failures of systems are geographical, right? I'm on the West Coast. That AT&T thing didn't affect me, but all the people I was talking to on the East Coast were talking to me through Signal on a Wi-Fi connection through, I don't know who their provider is, Comcast or whatever. So I can send, or they could have sent a text message from the middle of nowhere to a satellite and then dropped it into a functioning system in a different geographical location. So when you have most SHTF, because it's geographical, have a way to communicate up and out of that system that's failed, and that might be your redundancy that you need to use. Emergency systems. Emergency are, I'm in trouble, I need help right now. We used to have a satellite system that I used when I was in other countries, or you would use something like the local emergency system. Some good emergency solutions are solutions like our local hospital has a ham radio frequency. So anyone in the valley, if your communication goes down and you can't talk, you can just pop up your ham radio and get on that frequency and ask for help. Now, that requires a little bit of thought and foreplan. So if you're gonna have something that is something like that as your emergency plan, you got to program it into your radio. You can't be Googling what is the frequency to talk to the emergency people at the hospital when the internet's down. So that's why we have the PACE plan in advance, is because then I don't have to go looking for phone numbers and frequencies, because I've either already got them written down on a laminated sheet and stuck in a pocket, or I've got them programmed in my radio so that all that I have to do is turn it on to the emergency room frequency and say, hey, can you help me? All right, it's time to go over to Lowe's. Gotta get some super glue, fix some toys, fix some dinosaurs for some kids. Let's have a little bit of a discussion. I'm out driving around, I'm doing errands, I'm at Lowe's, and if AT&T were to go down right now, that means my cell phone doesn't work. However, it is possible that at Lowe's they've got some Wi-Fi, or maybe somewhere local someone has a Starlink connection device, and sometimes you can look on top of RVs, which there isn't any, but sometimes you can look for the dish on the RV. And if that's the case, I can connect to Wi-Fi. And if I've got Wi-Fi, I have Signal communication. With Signal, I can chat as if it's normal. I can make video phone calls, normal phone calls, and text messaging. That would be my primaries, my phone. Secondary, some sort of text message, or VoIP, which is voice over internet protocol. And when it comes to encryption, one of the best ways I've seen so far to protect your privacy is to use an app like Signal, because it's encrypted in the app. Then it can travel through an unencrypted, non-protected system until it gets to its final location, which is the software on somebody else's phone, where it is then decrypted. That is one of the most secure ways of doing it. You can encrypt a packet, send it over an unencrypted network, and they can't read it because they can't decrypt it. Then when it gets to its final location, you decrypt it. So I see a lot of worries about communication and stuff. One of the best ones I've seen out there so far is Signal. And just like anything, if it gets hacked and they find out, then they change the encryption and they redo it. It's kind of like the bullet gets bigger, so the vest gets bigger. So the bullet gets bigger, so the tank gets bigger. So the bullets gets bigger and the armor gets bigger, right? It's kind of this fight between, you know, more powerful this and more powerful that. If I can't communicate, the cell phone's down, and I try to text, but I can't make text messages because the internet's down as well, then what's the next option? For me, the next option is going to be satellite texting. I can log into here, hit my inReach button, and then I can just send text messages to whomever. This is an automated system right here where the device will text itself to say that it's working. So it's like a test system. So the primary is the phone, secondary is text messaging. Alternative is satellite text messaging. Now, if we have a massive event that has taken out the phone, the internet, and satellite capacity, we're gonna have to switch to a radio. The CB radio is kind of a cool thing because it's amplitude modulation, and without getting too technical, that basically means that I can reflect signals off of the ionosphere and talk over the mountain. I can talk longer distances than you normally would be able to do. Now, it requires a little bit of manipulation on my side. I might have to amplify the signal. I might have to take my antenna up there and tilt it sideways. I won't explain why, but that gives me a little more reach than just a normal ham radio. And almost every trucker out there has a CB, so this gives me the way to just talk to truckers who can relay information, kind of like a network, and go from there. The final option is a ham radio. Ham radios are kind of good line of sight, so basically 60 miles away. They give you the ability to talk to people in your area that are all the ham radio operators. I can program emergency communications in here. Because ham radio is autonomous, it's something that can function without a system. If one ham radio goes out, all the other ham radios are still working. So I can basically program into my ham radio a simplex communication, which is point to point. I can program repeaters. If one of those repeaters has the ability to hit another repeater and get out of the valley, then I can start tapping into internet again. I can use the IRLP or Internet Linked Routing Protocol to use a ham radio repeater and have it connect to the internet and talk to another ham radio repeater in, say, the Philippines or South Africa or Europe or something. If most problems are geographic in nature, most SHTF is only right here. That's the point. So if I can turn on my ham radio, talk to that tower over there on the mountain, which then talks to the internet through a different tower, and that I can control where that connection is. I can make that connection pop up in Europe. I can make it pop up in South Africa. And with my ham radio, I can get on the radio and talk to someone in another country by using ham to repeater to internet to repeater to ham. This is super valuable. And again, yeah, some of that system might go down, but it's rare that the entire system goes down. When AT&T went down here a little while ago, I think it was just the Cisco switches that got hacked, and that shut down part of the system. So the phones, the internet worked, but the phones didn't. Well, that means that if we use this redundancy thing that I did, start with a cell phone. If it doesn't work, use the internet. If that doesn't work, use texting or satellite. And if that doesn't work, use either a ham radio or a CB radio. And if those don't work, you just had an EMP and everything's not working, you're gonna have to start walking home. The big key takeaway with this stuff is have an actual plan. Put the frequencies in your radio, right? There's a bunch of frequencies. Mine is set up by city, so if I'm in this city, I know what repeater is gonna be in that city, from the BYU here local to Price, Utah, to Bryce, Utah, Brigham, Burley, Idaho, Scott Hill, Sundance, blah, 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 blah. And then all the way down to the simplex. My very first station is just 146.52, which is radio to radio. My second station is the Utah Valley Amateur Radio Club, because that's the main repeater. And then my third one is the 7/6ers, which is the other big repeater. So this gives me huge amounts of communication, and I can just talk from myself to whoever's listening, and then from them to whatever system they've got, and it just becomes networking. The key takeaways are this: have a plan, have a primary, an alternative in case that malfunctions, a contingency in case your system goes down, and an emergency way to call for help. If you can have primary, alternative, contingency, and emergency, you will have the ability to have a good, solid, robust SHTF plan. Learn more about technology. Every time I do a video like this, someone in the comment section is just lost in the sauce. I understand that, but it makes it impossible for me to teach something if people can't keep up. And I understand I got super smart people, way smarter than me in the comment section, and I've got people that are not as smart as me in the comment section. So learn more about how the systems work. When you understand how a system works, you can hack it, you can utilize it, you can reconfigure it to your advantage. And if you can do those things and you can steadily educate yourself, you will be the subject matter expert on something like this instead of me. Hopefully this is valuable to you. Have a plan, stick with it. Create some sort of paper that is laminated with your phone numbers, your frequencies, your communication things. Have other people on the same sheet of paper as you. If you're the only person on the ham radio and there's no one to reply to you, what good is a system like that? All right, guys, leave the comments down below. Let me know what videos you want to see in the future, and thank you for watching.
I'm Jason Salyer with Survival Dispatch, and when disaster strikes, will you be ready? Power outages, natural disasters, economic collapse, and the knowledge, the skills, and equipment necessary to protect your family when it really, really matters. You can gain instant access to our team of survival experts, stockpiling food, medical necessities, communication plans, proven techniques to help you get home, shelter in place, or bug out safely. Don't leave your family's safety to chance. Visit survivaldispatch.com to get started.